Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Axel 72 video. And in today's video, I'm going to be giving my prediction for the Oleksandr Usyk versus Rico Verhoeven fight. And so, if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you do indeed like the video, and feel free to join the Patreon as well. There's been two fights that are on this card, which has been made into their own separate videos due to somebody requesting them through the Patreon, and you can request your own kind of combat sporting related content. Again, I appreciate all the support which I've had with it so far, and of course the link will be in the description. Let's get straight into this one, and obviously it's a stacked card. Like I mentioned, two videos are out already from the card. That is the Jack Catterall versus Giasov fight and the Frank Sanchez versus Richard Torres Jr. fight. But of course, it's a stacked card. I'm going to be speaking about three fights on this card, including the main event, and it's a unique event as well. Obviously, it's kickboxing versus boxing, but it's also at the Pyramids of Giza. I'm curious as to how they're going to do it. An outside arena in the desert is going to be quite extreme conditions for any fighter to be fighting in. I don't necessarily know how they're going to be able to execute it and how they're going to make it not be so humid, and how they're going to account for possible sandstorms or any kind of conditions in which it could be at the Pyramids of Giza. But nonetheless, it is amazing to see that they're able to put on an event there, and it's definitely going to be good for bringing eyes to the sport, I'm sure. I think that's the whole kind of point with this event for both fighters. It is to create money, but for the promoters, of course, it's to get eyes on, it's to create a narrative. I'm sure if it was just a fight that was at Wembley or at an arena which was a bit more of a commonly used arena, people probably wouldn't care as much, and it might also not sell out that well. Whereas at Giza, it's not really that much of a problem of how well it sells, because I'm sure the tickets will be quite exclusive anyway, quite similar to the time in which they did the Times Square card when the tickets were very limited there, and imagine it could be the same here. I'm not always a fan of fighters having exhibition fights. I'm sure I'm not the only one that is with that mindset, because there is a time and a place for certain exhibition fights. It can help boost confidence. It can obviously mean that the fighters are making good money, and there is a time and a place. When AJ fought Jake Paul, I would say that that was quite a necessary, not a necessary one, but a more accepted exhibition, because nobody really liked Jake Paul and everybody kind of wanted AJ to knock him out. But at the same time, AJ was coming off a loss, so to build his confidence back up again, a win like that was not really going to do him any harm. Whereas when Tyson fought Ngannou, that was just a pure money grab fight, like the Jake Paul one was for Anthony Joshua, but there was no real benefit. There was talks of Tyson Fury fighting Anthony Joshua at that point, and I think there was also, talks of him fighting Oleksandr Usyk as well. Yeah, this was before the Oleksandr Usyk fights. So having that fight with Ngannou just slowed everything else down, and also meant that people were less excited for the Oleksandr Usyk fights because of the fact that Fury had looked bad against Ngannou. And so, again, there's a time and a place for him for Usyk. This fight I do feel like should be accepted by boxing fans, and it shouldn't be hit with too much criticisms, I don't believe, because Usyk's been so dominant and has really been on a good run. Obviously, he's become undisputed champion twice at heavyweight. He's pound for pound ranked. He should be number one, if not number two, and he's just been incredibly dominant. And I feel like a fight like this is deserving for him. I feel like every fighter around him has had these kind of money fights. You especially look at the Anthony Joshuas and the Tyson Furies. They've had these money fight exhibition fights which are easier on paper, like your Anthony Joshuas, like your Francis Ngannou's, but they've been able to, get that bag, whereas Usyk hasn't had that. He's been just fighting the best guy after the best guy. Obviously, he fought AJ twice, he fought Fury twice, he fought Daniel Dubois twice. Some real top names, the biggest names you will kind of hear in heavyweight boxing. Usyk has fought them, so I think it is fair to see that he's taken this fight. It was a bit of a surprise when it first got announced. Usyk was talking about having a Wilder fight. Obviously, Wilder went on to fight Derek Chisora instead, but it did seem like he wanted to get that bit of a money fight, which was, like I say, on paper a little bit easier for him. But in the same breath, he is almost 40 now, so he might not have too many years left in boxing. So for him to be taking this fight, it might be taking away a couple of years or at least one fight off his career where he's really at the elite. Again, we of course will have to wait and see how long, of course, he can go on for. But this is again also allowing the heavyweight division to kind of rebuild to an extent post the domination in which Usyk has had for it. I mean, he's being allowed to return, and he's now training with Usyk, and he's now fighting towards a Fury fight. Fury's been able to return and build a bit of hype about him beating Makhmudov, and I think he's having another fight, unfortunately, before the possible AJ fight. So they're both having return fights, and we're not just seeing Usyk going and beating them straight away again. It's not Fury versus Usyk 3 just yet. We're allowing them fighters to get back in the winning column. Same with Dubois as well. I feel like Dubois is probably the best example of this. He's been able to become champion again post his loss. So again, that was a very impressive win for him. Again, I'm not too sure why he was able to straight away get a title shot, but very impressive for him, and he has now, like I say, been able to make himself a bit more of an exciting heavyweight again, and I feel like should get a few defences under his belt before he even really starts to look at becoming undisputed and fighting Oleksandr Usyk again. I mean, also as well, we've allowed Moses Itauma to kind of build up his career a bit more as well. If we just put him in straight away with Oleksandr Usyk, he could have lost. That could have affected his mental, as a hyped, momentum riding young fighter. Having a fight like that could have just really ruined him, but obviously we've been allowing him to build his way up as well. So again, it's been good, I feel like, in that way, to see Usyk, of course, having this fight, and also having, in the meantime, a bit of time out as well. I mean, he has been fighting pretty frequently, and so again, to see him have a bit of time to not time out. I mean, he's still fighting the best kickboxer, arguably, of all time, but it is crazy how that is put as a bit of time out, but just a bit of time away from the other top names in the heavyweight division. I'm not a massive fan of the WBC belt being on the line for this one. I suppose you can make the argument that if Rico wins, he should be a world boxing champion because he has beat the current boxing Ring Magazine world champion. You can make that argument, but I mean, for him to be unranked and then get a title shot, obviously we've seen it happen in the past before, but it's not always that fair, and it doesn't surprise me that WBC have warranted this fight to still be for a world title. Again, the WBC will always do that. The IBF, I don't mind their route of doing stuff where they're just kind of keeping Usyk as champion no matter what happens. The WBO, I'm not too sure what's happening with that. They might be vacating Usyk. Well, the WBO, not WBO, WBA. I don't know what's happening with that one. He might be forced to vacate that WBA title. Again, I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember what's happened with the WBA title or if they've made a decision just yet. I did know Rico Verhoeven before this fight, and the run in which he's been on in kickboxing has been incredible. Obviously, he's been around for years and years and years. He's been fighting professional kickboxing or Muay Thai since kind of a mix of both for a long time now, since kind of 2008, even maybe even earlier professionally. Again, he has been around for a while. He's 37 years old. He's actually the younger fighter coming into this one, and you can't take away the fact that he's had 13 world title defences in Glory Kickboxing. The level of opposition is still going to be a high level of opposition. It's going to be the elite of the kickboxing names. Obviously, his last defence wasn't really the most exciting. It wasn't really the best. It was quite a domination for Verhoeven, but still, he has been in some wars, and he has, been tested at a real high level, and he has been able to come through that and still been able to win. And so he is, one of the best sporting fighters around at the moment. You can't take that away from him. Obviously, that is in a different sport. Obviously, kickboxing is a different sport to boxing. For the most time, we have seen fighters come from different sports over to boxing, and it hasn't really worked out too well. But plenty of fighters who have reached an elite level in boxing have come through kickboxing. So, that's something I suppose you can look at there. It can train some certain different things in which I suppose can help with boxing, especially with keeping a good stance and a good positioning. Again, I feel like that's something in which is heavily drilled in kickboxing, and you can see that with Rico Verhoeven. But you would say the only difference is a lot of the fighters that come through kickboxing to go to professional boxing or even amateur boxing, they've had, they're doing it at a younger age, whereas Verhoeven has had such a long career already and so many wars already, where him now trying to learn this new combat. I mean, he has fought boxing once, but to learn this new combat sport, I'm sure would be incredibly tough for him. And I mean, you'd expect Usyk to win, but the unorthodox style I'm sure that Rico will be coming with as a heavyweight who can still have a bit of a snap in his punches. He's not incredibly powerful and he's never really been known for getting too many consistently huge knockouts. He has got some big knockouts, but he's not regularly getting them. He is a bigger guy. He's got I think a 4.5 inch reach advantage coming into this fight. He's a taller guy by a couple of inches. Usyk's used to fighting taller fighters. It's going to be interesting what happens. Obviously, Verhoeven has trained with a wide variety of fighters. I mean, we've heard Tom Aspinall be quite positive, and obviously he's trained with him and give him a lot of credit in the past. Obviously, it's different to train with an MMA fighter to a professional boxer. I'm sure he's been training with other professional boxers as well, but again, it's interesting and it's also a good European clash as well. We don't really see too many elite, European heavyweights go on to real big things, bar obviously Ukrainian fighters. Other than that, we haven't. I mean, Caballel's doing well for Germany at the moment, but again, other than that, we haven't seen, unless I'm missing some really clear and obvious names, outside of British fighters, European fighters from, Netherlands like Verhoeven is, or from Scandinavia or other areas of um, Europe as well. I mean, even Russia, we haven't seen all too many heavyweights at an elite level in recent years either. So it's interesting and it's a good fight still. Again, it could be very one-sided, but we will obviously have to wait and see. It's a spectacle, and that's, I suppose, the best way to put this fight. Usyk, as a fighter, I mean, I can't list everything in which he's good at because I would be here all day. He's an elite fighter. He always creates gaps well. I mean, he started straight away with the feinting against Dubois, just working the gaps, working the angles, and it was way too much for Dubois. He has got great footwork, the way that he can spring in different positions, he can get around the guard, he can find shots in which you just don't expect, and he often is able to catch you off guard. He was able to catch Dubois off guard, he was able to catch Fury off guard, especially in the first fight. But even in the second fight, he was just springing up with punches all over, which was just kind of appearing in different positions where you didn't really expect him to be. He makes you hesitant. Obviously, everybody remembers the whole thing with Joshua becoming hesitant. Fury, I think, became hesitant in that second fight. Dubois obviously would have become that bit more hesitant in the second fight because of the fact that he'd already been knocked out in the first fight by Usyk. He did come out strong, Dubois, but Usyk just came out way stronger. And obviously, like I say, was able to punish him. He does punish mistakes as well. If you put yourself in a bad position, you might not necessarily be caught with a big, powerful punch, but you will be caught by at least one punch, probably two, which is paired up nicely from Usyk. He mixes up the power and the distance well. I think the power is coming through even more now. He's planting his feet a bit more when necessary and when he can do, and the power in which and the snap in which he showed from the Dubois second fight was something in which we haven't really seen from Usyk so far. Especially at heavyweight, and that was really destructive. Obviously, we saw it at cruiserweight. He finds his way in close. He pairs up his punches very well. Again, some of the ways in which he can pair up his punches just look like it's not possible. The way that he can kind of outstretch his arm to be able to do that. But again, very impressive. He has a high guard, typically himself. Perhaps not the strongest of guards, but it is a pretty high guard. He's always setting up something. He finds the target often against taller fighters well. And again, I think he actually does prefer fighting taller fighters. When you look back upon his heavyweight run, for the most part, he has been the shorter fighter. Against Derek Chisora was probably when he was a bit more of a similar height, and that was a competitive fight, and probably one of the more competitive fights in which he's had at heavyweight. And again, I think he does like the taller fighters that just can't pin him down, and I would say in general he just does, I mean, he often is not pinned down by any fighter in which he's in against. Negatives about him, obviously, physicality has never really been something in which has been massive in Usyk's favour. Verhoeven's going to be a big guy, and he's going to be used to fighting in clinches and in close positions. Again, you get a lot of that still in kickboxing, even though there isn't really much actual clinching or any wrestling. You still get that, so I feel like Verhoeven will be able to impose his size. If you don't become hesitant and back away from him, then you can have times where you are coming forwards on the front foot. Again, you're not always landing the most, but you can build a bit of confidence through that. He, of course, has been damaged to the body, not just in the first Dubois fight, but in the first Fury fight. I feel like he got damaged a bit as well, and it does make it, I feel like, a bit more clearer when he does get damaged, because he starts to back off a little bit, or at least bend forwards and kind of start to fade backwards a little bit. Again, we haven't seen that happen all too much, but it has been shown in certain moments. And again, he does seem to make it a bit more clearer when he's hurt, whereas Verhoeven can wear quite a lot of damage. We have seen he is at an age disadvantage, of course, Usyk, and at what point will that catch up to him? I don't know. I feel like I have mentioned, he doesn't have the strongest of guards. He can be made to reach at times. If you can fight going backwards and keep moving backwards, he can be overreaching a little bit at points. And I think he can start to fight on the ropes if he gets backed up there. That was obviously shown in the second Dubois fight as well, right before he got the knockdown, the first knockdown on Dubois. He was backed up a bit and he was fighting off the ropes. And again, if he didn't catch Dubois with such a good shot, would he have stayed in that position or would he try to have moved out? Again, I'm not too sure. I don't feel like he got backed up against the ropes all too much against Fury. Neither Joshua, to be fair. So Verhoeven might be able to back him up, and that might be something a bit different from what we've seen from Usyk in recent times. Verhoeven, as a fighter, he does use feints. I mean, he's kind of continuously moving his hands to just be feinting, but he does kind of go from low to high, which is good for kickboxing, of course, as well. He has his hands high for the most part as well, so I don't feel like it's going to be just a clean, easy target to be able to just continuously hit him. He's not the slowest. His hand speed is actually pretty good, and the way that he can get his kicks up is obviously impressive, the speed in which he does that, but again, hand speed is pretty good. He can shorten up his punches and pair them up pretty close and alright in that way as well. I would say that he doesn't really load up on his shortened punches or load up in close all too much either, which is good, and I think he can mix in combinations in that position as well. He holds his shape for the most part pretty well, especially at a mid-range, and he resets back to what works pretty well, but I would say that for the most part, when he is at a mid-range, he can go with a nice kind of straight 1-2, but he does seem to enjoy kicking that bit more at a mid-range, which makes sense. But again, that is obviously something in which he can't use in this fight. He's not got a bad shot selection either. The uppercut is alright, but he's willing to use it at least. He can throw when he's coming out of a clinch. He can throw off balance as well. Of course, that's something else in which you see from kickboxers moving into boxing. They can deal with being off balance because they're used to being able to, kick with just, like I say, only having one foot on the ground, and then they can be in a bad position but then still be able to throw off of that. So again, I'd imagine if he gets in any kind of awkward spots, he probably will still be able to throw against Usyk. Negatives about him, he's not really got much head movements. He does, I think, struggle with his punches at a mid-range to get his accuracy down a bit at times, and I think that's going to be, of course, even harder against Usyk. His technique, I feel like, does need a bit of work, especially you've seen him at times throwing uppercuts from way too far away and it's just not landing, and the same with hooks a bit at times as well. He shortens them up well, but then to actually extend them at a distance, then he's struggling a bit, I feel. He can just kind of throw to, after taking a few punches, he can kind of just throw and pour out a punch where it's just trying to push you back a bit, and if he's doing that, he's just going to get capitalised on more by Usyk. He doesn't use his jab all too much. I'd imagine he will use it more in this fight, but it is a good weapon if he was to use it more. Not got the best defensive footwork either. Again, he keeps his shape, but for the most part, he's not really moving around the ring or the cage all too much. He does stay on the ropes if he gets put there, He can come in after throwing. He can throw and then kind of come in close, and when he is coming in close, first of all, he's not really following up on what he's just thrown, and second of all, he's standing quite up tall in close as well. And again, that's something in which Usyk was able to kind of capitalise on against Fury, where Fury was stood up quite tall in close as well, and Usyk was able to just work away and then back him up from there, which again would be something in which I'd imagine he'd be able to do in this fight. So, who do I think is going to win? I think Oleksandr Usyk is going to win. I think he's going to win a unanimous decision. Again, that might be a bit of a bold shout to say that he's not going to stop Verhoeven, but I feel like Usyk might treat this a little bit like a sparring fight. And also, I think Verhoeven will show some toughness as well. Verhoeven has been in wars, he has been beaten up, he has been able to get through that, and then also been able to win fights in kickboxing as well. So he can't take away the toughness. Yes, he will probably be a skill level behind Usyk, but I'd imagine he will still show some toughness. And again, the power of Usyk, it will be there, but will he be really spiteful like he was in his last fight? He might be toning it down a tiny bit. I would like to hope that he's still skill-wise at the best, but even if he is toning down his power a little bit, I would still say that Usyk wins convincingly via a unanimous decision, and that is my prediction. And then who he can go on to fight next? I mean, Cabello is probably the fight that will happen next and should happen next. I mean, Cabello has been WBC interim champion for quite a while now, so that should happen next. And so if that happens, that'd be great. Again, another non-British involving European fight, which should be outside of England. It should be in a mutual venue, maybe in Poland again, or somewhere like that. That would be interesting, or even in America or Saudi, that could be interesting. If he doesn't fight Cabello for whatever reason, I mean, Wilder, that fight is still probably available if he still wants that. And then you're kind of looking a bit more in the future, I feel. Fury, if he beats Joshua, can be made into a trilogy. Talma, if he becomes champion, could be made into a fight, but Usyk has said he doesn't really want to fight Talma, which I don't blame him. So there's obviously names there, but we kind of have to wait to see a couple develop. The ideal next fight for Alexander Usyk, I would like to see, is Cabello. And then we go from there really to see where other fighters are and where they are in their career and what's kind of developed after that, because I'd imagine a Cabello fight would be probably back end of this year, and we might have even seen a Fury Joshua fight, fingers crossed, before then. So again, we would have to wait and see what happens, because I'd imagine Cabello wouldn't be financially as big of a fight as a Verhoeven fight in which he's having here, or of course a Fury trilogy in which you will probably be expecting to see at some point. Moving on to speak about another fight on this card, and that is Hamzah Sheeraz versus Alem Begic for the vacant WBO super middleweight title. And obviously this card, like I've mentioned, is pretty stacked, so this fight I feel like is definitely going under the radar, as I'm sure this isn't really how fans wanted to see Hamzah Sheeraz get a title shot up at super middleweight, but I'm sure if he wins this, he'll go on to more opportunities against the bigger names. Obviously, in his first fight, he moving up to super middleweight, he made easy work of Blanca, and that was a big name for him to be able to fight in his first fight. Again, stopping him in 5 rounds in pretty brutal fashion, to be fair, which was very impressive. Obviously, he's only fighting now on Ring Magazine or Riyadh Season shows. I mean, he has been since his Austin Williams fight, so he has been for a while now. This, you would say, is actually a bit more of a step down, but obviously it has to happen for him to then become a world champion. It is a bit random to see Begic get a title shot. I think it was meant to be Diego Pacheco that was meant to get his title shot, which would have been a really big name to fight Hamzah Sheeraz, but I think Pacheco might be swapping teams or might have had some injury problems, so that was why we've got Alem Begic stepping in instead, which again is a bit of a shame, because I would say this could be seen as a bit of a mismatch of opponents, but it's a big opportunity for Begic. If he wins this would be a huge upset, and we have seen some quite big upsets recently. Obviously, Zach Chelly beating Morel is the most recent example, so maybe, I mean, we don't really know too much of what Begic has, and obviously he could come in and really, like I say, upset the apple cart, and is that even a saying? I don't even know, but just, cause a huge upset. And I mean, Begic got a title shot over Pacheco because of what, like I mentioned, it happening with Pacheco, but he also got a title shot over Bank as well, Jacob Bank, who I would have preferred to see get a title fight. He's ranked higher at 4th or 3rd, I think, whereas Begic is ranked 4th, but still ranked 4th in WBO isn't bad. I mean, he has been defending his WBO European title for the past few fights, Begic, so that is kind of one way to get in the good books of WBO. He hasn't fought for over a year, but he has been stopping a lot of his opponents with, on paper good records when they fought him. But then you look at any of the fighters in which he's fought in recent times, especially his last two, and they've just gone on to lose a lot since. I'm pretty sure his last opponent has lost 3 or 4 fights since fighting Begic. So again, it's not the best of looks, but obviously, like I mentioned, if you go down that WBO European route, it's the same with IBF International, IBF European titles. You can get a ranking, and then if you keep defending that, you will just progress. I'd imagine he got told if he fights again, he has to fight a ranked guy or a higher ranked guy or a decently named guy who's ranked, and he probably didn't want to do that, so he was just waiting around with, of course, Canelo fighting Crawford and then vacating all the titles. That's perfect for him to be able to slot right in, to be fair. So I think he has been tactical to just be waiting around to get a title shot and a big money fight as well. I'm sure this is going to be by far the best in which he has ever been paid. He actually will be coming in for this fight at a pretty clear height deficit. He'll be 5'11.5" Begic is, and Sheeraz is 6'3". I don't know the exact reach of Begic, but I'd imagine there will be a clear difference in that way in Sheeraz's favour with his 75-inch reach for Sheeraz. I do think this is a mismatch of opponents. Of course, you never know what could happen. I mean, both fighters do look to have power. Like I mentioned, Begic has been stopping his opponents and he's been looking stronger whilst doing it. Obviously, there's not loads of footage of him fighting, but from what I have seen, he's been able to rip to the body and damage opponents in that way. I think both do have an alright selection of punches. I do think overall Sheeraz is just a better fighter, even though I would like to see Sheeraz pushed back, which Begic might be able to do, and see how he deals with that. There was times where Berlanga was able to push him back in the earlier first and second round, and he did look slightly uncomfortable at points. If Begic is doing that and chopping away at the body, he might be able to have moments of success. I think the actual movement of Sheeraz, I haven't seen all too much actual good defensive movement. He does like to have his base down to be able to throw. Again, he can go toe-to-toe, which against Begic could be entertaining, but again, he will want to, I think, plant a bit more of a base, whereas Begic can just keep coming forwards and throwing, which again will be interesting. I'm going to say that Hamzah Sheeraz is going to win via TKO in round 3. I think it could be quite destructive. I think the level of opposition is just clearly going to be showing in this fight in Sheeraz's favour. I think he is going to be able to hurt him. I think Begic is just going to be a fighter who's there in front of him and not going to be able to deal with the power and just wouldn't have been punched by the same level of power, especially professionally, as to what Sheeraz will be throwing. Again, if it goes into later rounds and Begic is chopping away to the body, it will be interesting, but we haven't really seen him go into the later rounds himself either, Begic. So again, everything, in my opinion, is leaning more towards Hamzah Sheeraz winning. I think it is a bit of a mismatch, like you would kind of say the main event is as well, but it's a fight that's going under the radar, probably for a goodish reason. Like I say, it is a shame that it's not a Diego Pacheco fight, because that would have been a huge fight, but still, nonetheless, again, it's an opportunity for Hamzah Sheeraz to become a world champion and to do it in impressive fashion, in probably highlight reel fashion, you would imagine, as well. And then who he can go on to fight next? I mean, technically, Canelo is mandatory for the WBO title. Obviously, he's going down the route of fighting Mbili instead. So the winner of that could fight Hamzah Sheeraz. We can get some unifications made from there, and that could be really exciting. The Pacheco fight could still be there. Again, if Pacheco wants to fight, I'd imagine that would be there at some point, but he might not want to be taking it if Sheeraz has just come off a brutal stoppage. But again, Jacob Bank as well, he's coming off 2 good victories. Obviously, he stopped William Skull. That was something in which Canelo wasn't able to do. So that's kind of the big win in which he has on his resume, but he won via stoppage after that again as well, and he's got himself in a good spot there, and so maybe that could be an opportunity there for Jacob Bank if the other fights aren't really available, the bigger names aren't really available. Obviously, Bank is undefeated as well, and that could be something there that could be made into a fight, maybe on another undercard of a big Ring Magazine show. Moving on to the final fight, which I'm going to be speaking about on this card, and that is Mizuki Hiruta versus Mei Soliman. And again, this is a really exciting fight for me. It's of course for the WBO World Super Flyweight title, and I'm very happy to see Hiruta on this card. I've been calling for her to get a step up in opponent and to be put on a big stage for a while now, and she's finally getting that against a dangerous opponent in Soliman. She is Ring Magazine champion Hiruta and won Female Fighter of the Year last year, so again, it's great to see she's getting the accolades. I've been following Hiruta's career for a while now. She is now going on to her 7th defense of her WBO title. I've been calling for unifications for a while. She's been showing that she is a level above all the defenses in which she has had so far. Maybe they haven't been the best of defenses, and you would imagine this would be probably the best defense in which she's had so far in the best name. But again, she has looked very dominant so far and has been able to show a real high level skill of boxing, just really clean boxing for the most part. When she kind of got through that phase of going toe to toe a bit more when she didn't need to, she's kind of in the past like 4 fights or at least 3 fights, she has really come into her own and really found that boxing skill where she's not needing to go toe to toe, and she's just found her reflexes, her sharp reactions, her like in and out type movement, light on the feet, picking punches, making you miss is really clean in that way. Again, the physicality and things like that of Soliman could definitely disrupt her, but again, this will be a good test for her, and I'm really excited to see how she deals with it. And if she does win well, she could definitely then progress on. Obviously, we haven't seen too many female fighters fighting on these Ring Magazine shows or these Riyadh season shows, so again, that's exciting as well. And she's not really got a main. She's been fighting with 360 boxing promotions, but she needs a bigger promoter. If Ring Magazine are able to push her and progress her along, then again that could be really exciting as well. Obviously, she's not gone down the route of fighting with most valuable promotions, which is interesting because you look at the other champions. We've got Garcia, Artiga. I can't remember the IBF champion. No, the WBO. No, the WBC champion. I think it is off the top of my head. But obviously Artiga and Garcia are both with MVP, so it might be difficult if she doesn't go down that route to get more unifications, but at least she'll be put on a big stage here, and I'd imagine them fights will be hopefully happening at some point. Soliman, I mean, she's got a big opportunity here as well. I'm sure she's getting paid the best in her career. She is a known name in the division, which I would say is more than what Hiruta has had in her defences more recently. And she's actually on a real good stoppage win streak. She's, I think, stopped her last 4 opponents, which again, the level hasn't been great bar her last fight. Last time out she won by TKO against Jasmine Parr, which was a real good TKO win, and that was, the fight in which made her seem more exciting and more of a bigger name, and again now is got this opportunity off of that fight. But this will most likely be the toughest test of Hiruta's career. It's a contrast of styles, and obviously she'll be coming out of Australia and trying to represent them. This is a fight where Hiruta has to be aware and has to be using her guard. Hiruta's boxing is very good with her feints, so she definitely could make Soliman miss, and I think Soliman is there to get caught with the jab over and over again, especially if she misses, and then the hand speed of Hiruta could come into play. But the trading is something in which I don't want to see Hiruta in at all. I don't feel like she's had to deal with this kind of same power that Soliman has got before, which again will make it difficult for Hiruta, I'm sure, at times, especially if she gets backed up. Hiruta doesn't have the same level of power as Soliman. I think Soliman will be able to creep in and get closer throughout the fight. I would like to see a bit more kind of circular movement from Hiruta at times, especially if she gets backed up. Again, if she can do that, I'm going to lean towards Hiruta winning via a unanimous decision. If she can keep her movement going, keep a distance, make her miss, but then also try and back her up herself if she does miss and punish that, which she can do with her light on feet movement, Hiruta, even though she's not throwing the most powerful punches, she can still make Soliman uncomfortable and back up in that way. I also believe that obviously Soliman is going to be a big target there for Hiruta to land on, but obviously she's going to be putting on the pressure. Again, if she gets backed up, we want to see her, like I mentioned, kind of circle out, reset back. I haven't seen that all too much just yet from Hiruta, but she hasn't really needed to do that so far in her defences all too much. Again, I think this will be the toughest test of her career so far, and if she wins this one and wins it as clearly as what she has been winning her fights previously, it will be very impressive, and I think she will win it pretty well again if she is at the form in which she is in. And like I say, I want to see her keep her hands high as well, which is something which I have seen from her, but I want to see her continually doing that. And then who she can go on to fight next? I mean, obviously this is a big stage of her fighting. Obviously the Garcia fight, the Artiga fight, they would both be really good fights, and they both could be made. Artiga WBA champion, Garcia IBF champion. If not, and she's going down the route of continually having defences, Shannon Ryan could be a good fight for a defence. Obviously, Shannon Ryan lost to Emma Dolan, who recently lost to Garcia pretty badly. But in the same breath, Ryan is coming off 2 stoppage wins herself. She is with a big promoter in Matchroom. That could be made into an interesting fight, an interesting narrative there. Again, probably on some big stage as well. Again, probably one of the biggest names, well, definitely the biggest names of Hiruta's career so far. And again, that could be an interesting fight in the defense, but I would prefer her to see her go on to unification fights. That's just if not possible for unification fights, a fight. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did indeed like the video. Subscribe if you're new. And thanks for